Hello, and welcome back to my journey from normal to Norway. Um, so I heard this quote recently. I believe it was on an episode of The Armchair Expert, Dax Shepard's podcast that I've referenced, I'm sure, many a time now on this channel because I do love it. I love it so much. And I'm pretty sure it was from this last week. I cannot remember which episode, but it would have been one of the last two, Mondays or Thursdays. Anyway, but they said you keep things because you're afraid that you won't be provided for in the future. And that really kind of made me stop and think. And I paused the podcast and opened up the notes on my phone to write that one down because it really resonated. It felt true for me. And it really got me thinking. I've probably mentioned it on here before. I think it might have been a while ago if I did. Um, but I really thought, you know what, this is a kind of a big thing in my life, so why not devote a whole video to it? So, I've said I live in this little one bedroom apartment by myself. I've lived here now for 8 years this month, which I can't believe. I certainly did not think it was going to be that long, and I never imagined living by myself. So it's been 8 years here, and I've definitely gotten used to the space, gotten used to having my own space. I walk in the door and I kind of dictate everything that goes down here, so, noise level and what I watch on the TV and what I have in the fridge and just everything. And so I'm very aware that if and when it comes time for me to share space with somebody or people again, there are going to be some compromises I'm going to have to make, and that's potentially going to be a very tricky transition. So I'm aware, at least. But one of the things about this apartment that made me choose it was the amount of storage space. So although it is a small one bedroom apartment, it really does have a pretty great amount of storage space. And, I filled it up to overflowing. And then 2 years ago, so 2017, during that time period that I've mentioned before when I was not working for 10 months and, just not having motivation and just going through a hard time and where it was even difficult to get out of bed some days, I took on a big project, and it took me many, many months because I would stop for a long time before getting back to it. But over those months that year, I went through my entire apartment, room by room, and got rid of some stuff and reorganized some stuff. And it felt like this daunting task at times that I would never get done. And I was always disappointed in myself on the days and the weeks that I didn't do anything towards that project. But when I finished it, it just felt like such a big victory. And I was so hopeful that it would feel like a weight lifted off my shoulders because I felt like I was drowning in my stuff. And I do remember feeling really accomplished when I finished it, but I can't remember if I did have that feeling of relief, of freedom, or, being able to breathe. That weight lifted off my shoulders. I don't remember if I felt that, and if I did, how long it might have lasted. I don't know. But it's been a couple of years since then. I think I finished it August of that year, so over 2 years ago that I finished. So I've reaccumulated some things. And then also just being introduced to new ideas. And for example, the Marie Kondo thing. I didn't read the book. I don't have the book, but I watched the series on Netflix. And yeah, that's a really compelling idea, going through each and every item you have and asking if it sparks joy for you and keeping it if it does and letting it go if it doesn't. And that sounds great, and I want to be able to apply that philosophy to every physical item in my life. I don't know that I'd be able to, though. I feel like there are all sorts of reasons that I've kept things. And so for the structure of this video, I was kind of thinking that maybe I would list and talk about reasons why I keep things, and then also maybe then talk about reasons to let go of things. The how is the tricky part for me, which I'll get to. So I would love for the reason for me to keep something to be that it brings me joy, but there are all sorts of reasons. I feel like some things have been gifts, so there's that feeling of well, there's either the memory of that person or that person giving me that item, and some of them would still be in my life and some of them wouldn't, and so there'd be various emotional things tied to that. Part of it, if it's a gift, might be like a guilt of like, oh, they really put a lot of thought and gave this to me. I should keep it, even if it's not something I use or something that brings me joy. I think there's guilt for some of the items for sure. I think part of it is the like, I might use this in the future. Again, even if it's something that I don't use or haven't used in months, years, or ever, like there's that idea of like, maybe I might use it someday, I might need it someday, which I think definitely ties back to that quote that I shared earlier about keeping things because you're afraid you're not going to be provided for in the future, because I don't know the future. I don't know what my life will look like, or what I have, or what I might not have, or what I'll need and not have, so the idea that I currently have something in my possession and I might need it someday. So the thought of letting go of it, of getting rid of it, feels wrong. Let's see. Also, I think a reason that I have a lot of things probably is the idea of collecting. And that's another thing that I feel like I heard about, and I can't remember what it was, but it was something about the idea of why we collect things, and it's control, and it's holding on to stuff, and I think that's part of it, but also part of it is, I think, just maybe the culture that I grew up in. It was very common, if not consistent across the board, that everybody that I knew of collected at least one thing, and many times multiple things, multiple items. And so, growing up, I started to collect things, and so I have a few different things that I have collections of, and that adds up to a lot of items. And I don't know, I don't think that having those things necessarily brings me joy, or is as big in my life as I would want it to be in order to hold on to them. But at this point, it's something where it's been years, it's been decades that I've had some of these things in my life, and they're there just because they're there, and they always have been. And so I think that's also difficult when thinking about if something has been in my life, it not being in my life anymore. So I've just got, for being one person in one small spot in the world, I've got a lot of stuff. And definitely more than I need. Also, I believe more than I want. And actually, I think maybe an unhealthy amount of stuff. I think it's holding me back. I think it's kind of trapping me, maybe, where I am. So one thing that's made me think about the amount of stuff that I have, and wanting to not have as much, is as I get more things, there's no room for them. And for example, I keep looking over to this chair that I have in the corner of my living room, and there's various piles on it of items of clothing. And each pile is a different category, if you will. And the thing is, like, that's most of the clothing that I currently wear, because there's no more room in my closet. And plenty of things in there either don't fit me, or I just haven't worn in years, haven't been excited about, haven't wanted to wear. And so for most of the clothes that I actually wear to be folded up on this chair is ridiculous. There's no reason for me to have all of those other clothes that I don't wear that somebody else could be enjoying, and somebody else who is in need of them might really appreciate, and I've got it just hanging there. Um, so one thing is needing room for new things that come into my life, but another thing is this whole Norway dream. And that is because before, when it was like, maybe, go visit or something, that was one level of thought. But now it's gone to a deeper level of, if I really do want to move there or move anywhere, I feel tied down by my stuff. It's a little claustrophobic. It just feels like such a huge undertaking, because I know that I would not want to take all of this with me, especially, I mean, the thought of like going to a different country and having to figure out what to do with all this stuff is extremely overwhelming to me. And that's a problem. That's a big problem, because as much as I daydream and I make excuses for things, and I have all of these various battles to fight in actually pursuing this dream for real, one of them that I can take care of, that shouldn't need to be there, shouldn't need to be a battle to be fought, is feeling overwhelmed by my stuff. And so that's a big motivation to let go of things, to get rid of some things. But it's difficult, and I think that there's many factors that lead to that, all of which are human and okay. It's not like I don't want to like beat myself up over it, but I think for some people, based off of their nature and their upbringing, it's easy to let go of things. I feel like that's not the case for me. I feel like the environment and the family that I grew up in and all of that, there's a history of holding on to things from even before my parents' generation. I mean, it's just a thing that's been there, that's been part of the lives of my ancestors, that's been just passed down, is just, yeah, holding on to a lot of stuff, having a lot of stuff, and collecting things, and just having an importance on some of these items in your life, the memories and whatnot. And I think I also, I think it was from growing up, and then part of it is just me, of like wanting to have a home that feels homey, and cozy, and I think part of that maybe has become in my mind being surrounded by things that have memories and have meaning, and me being me, it's all like I just keep looking around my living room. It's colorful things. There's color everywhere. And I don't know. So I think that's for me. It'll be hard to let go of things, because of the people who came before me, and the people who made me, and me being myself, and like what I grew into for some decades is just this habit of having all of these things. But as I think about who and how I want to become moving forward, I don't want to be about stuff. I want to be about experiences. And that's a whole different philosophy, a different way to approach life, a different way of living. And so if I want to be about experiences, I think naturally the stuff will get in the way sometimes. So the thought of just like picking up and going somewhere feels daunting. It feels even almost impossible. I saw this commercial the other day for away luggage, which I am thinking about getting. And it's, this girl and her dog, and she's talking about, my job took me to this place, and I had, just a week or something to get there. And so it just shows her like rolling into this apartment with these 2 suitcases and her dog, and like unpacking a few items, and ta-da, there she is. And I just like cannot imagine being in that scenario. I mean, when I start to think about moving to Oslo, maybe I just think about like all of the huge luggage that I would have with me and pay so much to take with me, and then like all the stuff that I would need to somehow box up and ship over there as well, and how much money that might cost. And it's just like the wheels start turning, and I start, like I'm doing right now, spiraling out of control a little bit. Like then the thoughts just get bigger and bigger. The images become more and more impossible. And so I stop thinking about it. I shut down and move on to something else that does not feel as overwhelming. And so then the dream stays a dream, and then I'm not actually taking physical steps to pursue it. So that's a problem. That's not something that I want for myself. That's not how I want to live my life. So I've got to do something about it. But that feels hard. As I look around, I just kind of think about getting rid of some of these things. Even if I have all these books and I haven't touched them in years. Why do I have them? Why do I, like the likelihood of me reading them again is slim. Excuse me. So yeah, there's no reason for me to still have them. So anyway, I don't know that this is a video of answers really. Maybe it's more of a question. If you have advice on letting go of things, and if you've had to take on a project like this in your life that feels really big, or if it's something that does come more naturally to you than it does to me, and you have advice on that, I would love to hear it. That advice, that encouragement, that support, because I feel like I need it. This feels big, bigger than me. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Sorry, I have a really dry throat right now. Having a lot of stuff, more stuff than I need. I think even more stuff than I want. And now having this bigger want, even if there are items, I have a bigger want now, and they're getting in the way of that, and I don't like that. So, I want to move on. I want to move forward. I want to let go of the things I'm holding on to and what they represent. I feel like I'm holding on to stuff also metaphorically that I don't need to, that might not be good for me to hold on to. So I got some work to do. I just felt like sharing that. I think it'll be helpful to people out there who will feel the same, and I think it might also be motivation for me. I've said it out loud, and it's out there in the world, and so anybody, whether it's one person or many, could see this, and so it could be accountability for me to just go ahead and do the things. So that's my goal. I kind of know what's there. I know the project. I just need to take some actual physical steps to do it. So that's where I'm at. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you have a great week. And I will be back with you soon to chat again. And until then, hada.